Hi team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab, and thanks for showing your love and attention for CISO Masterclass 1 and 2 that motivate me to make the CISO Masterclass 3. And in this particular video, we're going to discuss about the business acumen. As a CISO, you're not only a technical person, but also you need to understand the business, because ultimate goal of security is to enable the business, create a value for business. And I've seen a lot of CISOs fail in that area. And because of that reason, I thought Masterclass 3 will be all about understand the business. So my name is Prab, and for more information, you can check my LinkedIn profile. And whatever I'm going to discuss in this particular session, all are practical, nothing theory. How things works, what is required when you join CISO, and from the business interpretation perspective, that will be covered in this particular video. So without wasting a time, let's start with the first part. Thank you. So when we're talking about as a CISO, as a vCISO, when you join any organization, we need to check some areas. Okay, it's not something, okay, first day itself we do risk assessment and create a strategy. We used to give at least 1 week to understand the culture and everything. So when you're talking about the agenda of this module, we're going to understand about culture, vision and mission. Culture is very important. Your primary role as a CISO is to build a good culture, security culture. Okay, culture is basically like a set of ethics, values toward the security. Like people should report the incidents, people should report the issues. They basically accept that change what you want to introduce from security point of view. One of the first enabler in the CISO as a leadership position is to create a culture. So in this section, we're going to discuss about, what will your first week, what is your first 2 weeks in the company, and what are the kind of an activity we do. So introduction of this is to understand the state of security maturity, familiarize yourself with organization structures, and identify the immediate security gaps, and prioritize the areas that need attentions and all that. That's something we're going to discuss now. Now, first part is basically we need to understand the vision and mission. See, as a CISO, you review the website, you check everything about the company and all that. And the most important thing, you need to understand the organization, mission and vision, because that basically help you to create the mature cybersecurity strategy or program. So mission is basically present and vision is basically future. So vision basically talk about why we exist, and mission is basically talk about how we basically work on that path. That's why if you can see, mission is all about present and vision is basically future. And if you're talking about the mission as a statement, it's a short term and vision is basically long term. So it's very important to understand the vision and mission, because based on the vision and mission, your company basically drives all the initiatives. That's a most important fundamental rule we have. So spend and get understanding about what is the next 5-year vision. Okay, what is the mission? So according to that, you can plan things. Now, one more important thing you need to understand here is what kind of a control you will have in the organizations. So there will be some questions that you should keep in your mind, okay, when you're having a first meeting with the board or with the senior management. And the questions will be around your authority. The question can be mapped based on your freedom. What is the kind of freedom you have? My recommendation is that if you can ask this question in the interview, that give you better visibility. So when I work for any vCISO projects and all that, I basically have some questionnaires which give me that visibility about what kind of an authority I have in the company. Like the basic question is about the reporting structure, like, who do I report directly within the organization, because that play a very important role. If you report to if you see the 90 to 95% of the companies, the CISO is basically report to the CIO, because CEO does not want to take any accountability. But if the CISO directly report to CEO, he can able to provide the better, or she can able to provide the better visibility. So it is very important for you to understand your reporting structure, what kind of a reporting structure we have, and that varies from company to company. So if you're working in the financial sector, you report to CRO. If you're working in the service sectors, you report to the CIO. If you're working in the technology sector and all that, you report to the CTO and all that. So it's very important for you to understand who do I report directly within the company, and how often will I have a direct access to the board executive leadership to discuss security matters? Mostly it happens in every 3 months. So they have a board meetings in which they discuss about last 3 months activity from a security perspective, where the CISO basically share about this investment initiatives, state of security, how they basically mature, the ROI and all that. So that's something have a discussion. So that's something we need to understand, because these two questions give you better perspective about your role in the company. Then the second thing you basically need to ask about the budget and resource. What is the allocated budget for the information security program? So we create an information security strategy for 5 year, and program is basically 3 year. So you need to understand about what is the budget they have allocated for the information security program, because we have a two type of companies. One which they have a security just for things, and one basically have a security which is used to create a value. So you have seen that in past, a lot of fintech and all that basically get backfire from a regulatory, and because of the bad practices of security, not bad practice security. So you need to understand how they're taking security as a process. Okay, so as I said earlier, security is an enabler for business, not a you can say a liability for the business. So what is the allocated budget? Okay, do I have authority? Can I request for the additional budget? And how are the budgeted decisions for security initiatives are made? That's the most important part. After the budget and authority of your reporting, you need to understand how the information security will be integrated in the overall business. What is the approach, or what is the process they have, and to what extent the security considerations will be influenced to the business decisions. Example, like company going for merger and acquisitions, do they consider security aspects there? Companies basically going for the vendor management, do they consider security there? So we need to also understand, like, in their decisions, will they consider security? Does the security influence their decisions? Okay, so that's something we need to understand. So recently what happened in one of my client side, the company is going for an acquisition merger. From a business point of view, it was a great merger and acquisition. For your information, the biggest reason of going for merger or acquisition is basically client acquisition. But later on, I basically provide my viewpoint about the risk, threats associated with that merger acquisitions, technology integration, cost and everything. So we later conclude that, okay, the cost of that security is higher than cost of acquisition or the opportunity. So this is how security as a factor influence the board decision. So you need to understand that. See, I'm not telling that, okay, in every company we do follow this, but where the company basically having a low risk tolerance, big in the business, definitely you need to ask this question, because that help you to understand your authorities and perspective, okay, about the CISO. Then, like, as I said, do I have an involved role in to influence the IT and effective security control? Because 60 to 70% of the areas where CISO will conflict with the CIO. So that's something we need to understand. And along with that, you also need to understand about the policy and governance. So policy governance is another important factor. We are like, do I have authority to update the policies? Or if am I member of a committee where we approve the other policies? Do we have any security frameworks which talk about the security strategy and all that? So that something is basically very important here. So once you basically have a meeting with the board and all that, now time to business. You need to identify, okay, what kind of a data your organization has. Normally, if you see, we have a 3 type of data: regulated data. Okay, regulated data. Second is basically trade secret data. And third is basically the operation data. So when I join as a CISO, I have this assumption. By end of the day, we have a 3 data. Based on this particular data, I'm assuming what are the business process we have. And then it is easy for me to map the business process with data. Okay, because by having this visibility, regulated data and trade secret, we always get a visibility about the regulatory compliance and everything. It's always a good practice. Let's say example, in one of my fintech, I understood they are dealing with financial data and all that. So I know they need to be comply with RBI. Okay, so when I'm having a meeting with the business owners, I have this mindset. Okay, is this business critical from RBI perspective? Or that business is critical from RBI perspective. So that is basically give me the visibility. You can start with business process first, but problem is that you cannot have that viewpoint. You will see business process, but when you see, okay, we have this kind of a data and this support this kind of a business, then you will be more serious and you will be more cautious about the controls. So one tool which I used is I will list down the business process. Okay, I will collect the list of some details of business process, how many business process we have. And then I will try to use a CPOC tool. Okay, CPOC tool. CPOC is basically stand for supplier. S stand for supplier. Okay, I basically stand for inputs. P is basically stand for process. O is basically stand for output, and C is basically stand for customer. So it's a actually high level process, which is a tool used to identify the essential element of a process improvement projects. And it is often used in a Six Sigma. So I'm using this tool in my CISO projects actually. And we're going to understand how the CPOC tool is used from a security. So we're trying to map the security process where we identify key security processes such as incident response, vulnerability management, access control. And then we create a CPOC diagram for each process to understand the full scope and context. So here we can see first step is identify suppliers. So here the suppliers stand for entities that provide input necessary for the process. Input is basically mean the materials, information, resource which required to execute the process. Process is series of steps, and output is a product or service that result from a process, and customer is the recipient. Okay, so that is how we see. So here we are talking about suppliers. We need to know what are the suppliers we have. We need to list down the associate threat data, security policies, credentials, and everything. Then we define the process. Here, let's take an example of incident response process, the step which include detection, analysis, containment, eradication. Then we determine the output and customers, specify the output of the process. For example, incident response process might produce the incident reports. So, it gives the better visibility. And then we try to improve the process. So if you take example of suppliers can be my IT department. So supplier is not necessarily the external supplier. Supplier can be internal also, like IT department, SOC, threat intel providers. What they're going to provide as an input. So supplier, I list down the supplier, like these are the list of supplier we have. And what is the input they're going to provide me? Input can be my threat alerts, incident reports, security tools. And with the help of that, what kind of a process we can create? We can create an incident response process, and output will be reduce the incident, restore the systems, and who will get a benefit? Customer. So this is how, when you're creating any process in the organization, if you follow the CPOC, it gives the better visibility. So by this way, we can able to optimize the things. Okay. Same like you can check do they have a CPOC for the business? At least as a CISO, when you join, you should create a CPOC for your security process. So if tomorrow someone asks, what is the purpose of this process? So you can tell this process creating this value for this customer. Okay, from where we getting input for this process? So you can create an Excel sheet in which you can create a CPOC, because the benefit of the CPOC is it provides the clarity and transparency. It making easier to identify and address the gaps. It basically improve the communication because it facilitates the better communication between the different stakeholders. Then enhance the compliance. We can ensure all regulatory requirements are identified and integrate into the processes and reduce the risk of non-compliance. And we also have a process optimization. Process optimization basically mean you can see, does it overlapping or not? And based on that, we can check, is it aligned with the stakeholders? Is it aligned with the business objectives? So if you don't have, that's okay. Or if you have, it's good to have. Now, once I understand all the business process, okay, high level, then I will request for the further documents. Now, this is the very important thing. So your next week, the second week where you will request for documents. So first document is called as the first document is called as organizational documents. Now, when you're talking about organizational documents, what are the examples of organization documents we have? Now, let's take example, vision, mission. Then we're talking about the organization chart. Then we're talking about the annual reports. So these are basically the example of the documents. Okay. So I repeat again, organization, company vision and mission statement. Okay. Organization chart and annual reports and strategic plan. So that is the most important part we have in the function. Now, next is basically called as a security policies and procedures. We need to check, do they have existing any policies? Okay. See, in my case, most of the firms which I find, okay, they already have. Or if you're joining as CISO, definitely the previous CISO has done this. So you have to check the last policies, procedures, data protection policies, acceptable use policy, incident response plan, and BCPDR. Like if you ask me, minimum, you need to have a data classification policy, risk management policy, information security policy, password policy. These are the minimum policy you need to have, whether you have ISO or not ISO. These are the minimum policy you need to have. So you have to see Do they have a policy? You can check what is the last revision. Is it updated or not? Then you can see the current security posture report. Now, when you're talking about the posture report here is like you can check for the previous audits and findings, recent VAPT reports or compliance reports. Okay, that's the most important part. Then you can take the assistance of the technical team and review the technical documentation like network architecture diagrams, current system inventory and access control policies if you want. That is optional. But one more important thing you need to understand here is the operational documents. Operational documents like SLAs with the vendors, security awareness trainings, programs, incident breach history, chain management procedures. So that's something you can look for. And last is basically called compliance and regulatory. Like you can check what are the list of regulatory compliance we have. So when you get the visibility about type of data your company is going to handle, automatically you get to know, okay, what are the list of compliance you need to follow. Then internal audit reports, regulatory correspondence, and based on the defined protection. So these are the list of documents. This stage is basically called as an examination stage. This stage is basically called as an examine. Because before having a meeting with executive leaderships and team, you need to know what you're going to ask. So it is good to do the homeworks by reviewing these documents. Now I'm assuming you read these documents, you prepare your question points. Now based on that, you will do the stakeholder meet. Stakeholder which creating a value. So we have a CEO, we have a CFO, and we have a CEO. It's not possible, okay, you will have a meeting with CEO every day. So they have a EA who can delegate the work. It's good if you can meet the CEO, because if you meet the CEO, you can understand the overall business strategy, you can understand the vision, and you can get the vision details. And if you speak to CFO basically discuss about the budget, financial impact of security and risk management. And if you talk about the COO, Chief Operating Officer, you will understand the operational priorities and how the security is basically fit into the daily operations. See, every meeting has objectives. Now, if you can see the meeting to the CIO, now you're speaking to the CIO, he is your biggest threat actually. So CIO is the one who discusses the current state of IT infrastructure and security posture. IT manager will basically, with that you will try to understand the technical challenge and ongoing projects. And then if you have a security operation team, you will get the insight on the day-to-day security operations and incident response functions. So that something is there. But now if you're talking about the integration part, COO discuss how security need to be integrated. You basically get a visibility of functions, and CFO discuss the financial aspects. And we also have a CCO, we'll discuss in the next slide. So every meeting has a primary objective. So that's something you need to have. Now coming part to the compliance and legal. So if you are into the sector where you're dealing with data privacy and all that, so we have a profile called CCO, Chief Compliance Officer. See, it is a myth that, okay, CEO or CISO need to interpret the legal regulatory requirement, which is not true. So Chief Compliance Officer is the one who understands the regulatory requirement and compliance posture. Then we have a legal counsel to discuss the legal risk and data privacy concern. And you can also have a business unit leader who basically talk about how the security is basically creating a value. Now in some companies, we have a sales department, marketing department, HR department, because they hold the employee data, customer data. So you need to understand the business process, you need to understand the data usage, or you also need to check the security concern from the department perspective. Is it clear? So, and sometimes what happens, you need to have a meeting with the external partners and vendors also. So to discuss the role, security controls and all that. So these are the list of people we have, you need to meet. See, in my case, what I used to do is I have created an Excel sheet. Okay, tab 1, list of documents, tab 2, list of team that I need to interact. So by this, you automatically get a visibility about their viewpoint. See, one thing, what is documented is something, and what is in your mind is the second things. So when you're having a meeting with all these people, you will get a overall visibility, and then you basically move to the next level, which is called as a risk assessment. Okay, which is called as a context-based risk assessment or asset-based risk assessment. So in my next slide, I'm going to discuss that. So do let me know, how do you find this particular video? And do you find something new in this video? Do share in a comment box, and do let me know what is the next video shall I make apart from CISO Masterclass. Your feedbacks are very important, and because of you, I'm exist here. So I'm nothing without you. So please do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon if you think you find this channel useful, and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Good day. Bye.